Hello everybody and welcome to Mark Goldbridge Going for Goldbridge. I was going to say that's Football United stand. There's so many, but I enjoy doing this and I'm really excited to say that Cooking with Goldbridge is back this week. I'm so excited to be doing that. But I'm really enjoying the Going for Goldbridge stuff as well. And thanks everyone who has been sending stuff in and really appreciate that. But let's get straight into it. Let's not mess about. There's some cracking questions. One question I'm going to answer in a bit was, how do you deal with quiet people? And I think, you know what? The great thing about that question is we've all been there, you know, whether you going, you know, when you go on a training course and you're all waiting before the person comes in and no one knows each other. What do you do? I've got some good advice on that, but let's fly in. A topic I'm going to start off with is one of my topics, which is what is one of your topics actually. What's your worst date you've ever had? I was asked it before and I went, I can't really think. I've not been on any dates. And actually, I was thinking over the week, I wasn't thinking what's my worst date. I just remembered this scenario. And I thought, actually, I suppose that fits in with that, which I've been asked before, so I can answer it. So what's my worst ever date? So basically, I was about 17, 18. I'd left school. And I've told the story before. I left school with crap GCSEs, so I didn't do A levels, but I went to college. I went to college, and I was there for about 2 weeks, and I got glandular fever, and I was off for about 3 weeks, and then the college basically said, I think I was actually off for about 6 weeks, to be honest, because the college said, there's no point you coming back. You're only here for 3 weeks, and don't come back. You're shit. Basically, no, that's not what they said. They were like, you were only here for 2 weeks, and you got ill. And then you've been off for 6 weeks. You've missed so much. You may as well just come back next year. I was like, what am I going to do? This was before the internet. There was not a lot to do. So I got into quite a bad place where I was staying up. I mean, the thing about glandular fever is you do feel ill, but then it can turn into, basically, I just became very lazy. I was probably my first dabble with depression, really, on a serious note, because it was like, I can't remember how old I would be, 16 or 17, probably 17. How old are you when you leave school? 16? If you're an idiot and you don't do A levels. So I'd probably just turned 17, and everyone else is off doing A levels stuff, and I just wasn't doing anything. And people say get a job. What, like packing cheese or something? I've done that before, and I didn't want to do it then, and I hadn't done it then. But anyway, we're getting lost in the depth here. The reality is, at school I'd done okay. I think I hit my prime at school very late. I was always into football, and in the last 6 months I was at secondary school, people started to take notice. I'm not talking like teachers. Oh, there he goes. I mean, like girls. I was cut out in my prime. I had 6 months of my prime. My first 6 months at school I did quite well because I carried on my form from primary school where I was, quite popular with girls. Then I just got really into football. And the last 6 months of school I didn't really give a shit about football anymore. I started doing smoking and, I could handle a pint, I could handle a can of Stella, and I got quite popular. And then I left. And then, it's like being a winning Big Brother. You're popular for a little bit and then it all disappears, and I think that's what happened to me. I went to college. Even in that first 2 weeks I was on a bit of I dealt with the whole quiet people problem. When I went into a class where I didn't know everybody and everyone was quiet, I was like, I had a plan for that. And then I just was like, found myself at home in end of October, and I was like, what am I going to do for the next 9 months until I go back to college and start again? And then I'll be a year older, and that matters when you're that age. So I still had friends, of course, so I'd go down the local pub, and I found myself at a low ebb. I didn't have a girlfriend. There was no internet to release, and you know what I mean. And so I just used to go down the pub as often as possible with the very little money that I had. I was in a bad place. I was trying to be Liam Gallagher as well. I mean, this is a true story. Me and my mate quite liked Oasis. And we were sort of in the similar situation, although I think he went to college. But I remember watching Top of the Pops, Don't Look Back in Anger. I think it was Don't Look Back in Anger. And Oasis were on Top of the Pops, and Liam Gallagher was in like this snazzy jacket with sunglasses on, and Noel Gallagher was in a white shirt with sunglasses on. It was we were going to somebody's birthday party, and we thought it'd be a really good idea to rock up. I mean, I think what a prat right now, but we basically turned up as an Oasis tribute act. And I remember going into town to Next to get a white shirt. I had loads of white shirts. Everybody's got shit. Who wears a white shirt out to a bloody disco? White shirt, combed down because I couldn't grow sideys, and sunglasses on. It was the middle of November, you know, and people actually, there were people there in their 30s. They probably thought, what a bunch of prats. So I was in a bad place, and anyway, the year went by, and it probably hit sort of February time, and I still didn't have a job really, just barely, I say barely getting by. I wasn't living on my own, living off pasta and water. I was still living at home. I still had a Mega Drive or an Amiga or whatever was going on then, but my life was not really going anywhere. Anyway, one Saturday night we're down the local pub, and this group came in that I hadn't seen in quite a long time. I knew them all from primary school, to be honest, and secondary school. And I think actually, to be fair, I knew a couple of them from primary school and a couple from secondary school, because they were horsey types. Not that they look like a horse. I'm not saying that, but they liked horses. And not in that way, they like to ride horses. And not in that way, actually equestrial, or whatever they call it. So they were like, oh, hi, we've not seen you in ages. And I was like, yeah, hi. And it wasn't just me. I wasn't stood on the end of the bar miserable drinking a baby sham. I was actually playing pool or something like that. But remember, I came from quite a rural place. The village I lived in probably only had a population of about, I don't even know how many people live on a street. It's hard to tell. A couple of thousand, maybe 1,000. 2 local pubs and a small co-op. That was what it was, really. And anyway, I got talking. I mean, basically, I was at a low ebb. I mean, there was probably about 4 or 5 girls. Some of them were probably 8 or 9s out of 10. A couple of them were 6. And people say you can't objectify women like that. Well, if I'd been gay, there was a couple of guys there. I would have said they were whatever out of 10. And I'm not talking about looks anyway. I knew these people. I knew them from secondary school. I'd spent maths and English and geography classes with them. I knew what their personality was like. So I wasn't looking at them, and it wasn't a night out down bloody Risa bar where somebody walks in a short skirt and lots of makeup, and you go, well, I've never met them in my life, but I'm going to give them a 7 out of 10. I actually knew these people, and it was based on it wasn't just based on that performance that night and what they were wearing. It was based on many performances, and I would have said a couple of them were 8 or 9s and a couple of them were 6s. I was at a low ebb. I sort of gravitated towards the 6s. My confidence wasn't great. I didn't fancy the conversation with the 9 out of 10 and them going, "What have you been doing for the last few months?" Oh, well, I've basically been sat at home earning money for hoovering and washing the pots. So I didn't want to say that. So and also just back on the ratings. If it's objectifying a potential suitor to go on a date with by giving them a mark out of 10, then why do we give player ratings after each match? Because it's a system that's been around for many years, decades, centuries. Giving somebody a score out of 10 based on performance, and this was a performance based on many years of knowing them. Anyway, you know what I did? I gravitated towards the 6 out of 10s. And obviously, I think most people would say I'm at least a 9 out of 10. So I was playing below myself, and I'm joking. I'm not. I don't want to be arrogant. Probably an 8. Anyway, so I gravitated towards the 6 out of 10. I let her buy me a drink, another baby sham, and we had a chat. And I was like, you know what? She was really enjoying herself. I thought, you know what? I've probably made her year. I know it's only February, but I've probably made her year. Just look, 6 out of 10 meets 8 out of 10 at least, and they're very happy. And I thought this has lifted me up quite a bit. That's not there. And I thought, well, you know what, let's do it again. So I said, ooh, I've had a good time tonight. Something had happened before that. Nothing. I was 17. I'd been around the block a few times. Not loads of times at that age. I mean, look, I was only 17, but I knew the way home. And we nothing. I think people are getting lost in it. Nothing like that. Probably a little bit of a kiss. To be honest. I wouldn't have wanted it to be any more, because the reality is this is the first time. And literally, we'd only been talking a couple of hours. I mean, literally, what have you been doing? Yeah, the weather. No, I don't know. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, it got to a point where I said, "Oh, we should do this again, just us." As I said, I was at a low ebb. I mean, realistically, Anyway, so I was like, this was the day. This was. Unfortunately, I'm sad to say, this was probably the day. This internet was probably just becoming a thing. I don't think mobile phones weren't a thing, because I remember when I lived in Ireland and I got my first phone and it was about as big as my head. And I thought text messages were better than playing Sonic the Hedgehog or something like that. It was amazing. So phones didn't exist then. So it was literally, give me your number and I'll give you a ring. And she said, "Oh, I'll take your number." So I gave it. I was like, "Well, that's a little bit forward, but saves. Times are hard. I haven't got loads of money. She can ring me then." So I gave her the number, and she said, "I'll give you a ring tomorrow night." She's never bloody rung me. So I suppose in many ways that's my worst date, because I got snubbed. I got reeled in by a 6 out of 10. No, that's not the point. Of course it is to me. And they never rung back. And I think, you know what? It still hurts. No, it doesn't. I actually thank that person, because you know what? They were a nice person, but I've done really well now. I'm married to what I would say is definitely a 10 out of 10. I'm boxing up, and I could have been boxing down there. So I'm grateful to it. But I mean, at the end of the day, I would still, if you are watching, I would like to know why, because I mean, just look. No, a lot of that's just for dramatic effect. But I thought I would tell you that story because everything's every day's a school day. In relation to learning, and it was. I look back on it and why didn't you ring back? I mean, it wasn't like people were queuing up, and I don't know. And the thing is, she always fancied me at school, like, and I actually think I was probably better looking at that than I was at school then. But I don't know. It doesn't bother me. But you know who you are, and I'm only joking. I'm not bothered. Anyway, so yeah, that's probably what I would class. I don't know whether it's classed as a worst date because we never got there, but it was a major L. It was a major L at that time, but everything was at that time. I mean, look, to be honest with you, I look at that year of my life, and it was bad, and I think it did, in a serious note, set the tone for problems I've had later in life, because I think it was remember I was talking about this on the last show, where you can take yourself back into a time and feel it. And I do go back into that. I remember moments, and I can vividly go there. It's like an emotional blanket. You can put yourself back into that time, whether it's a childhood Christmas or scoring a goal or whatever. And I think that I presume everybody can do this, because I don't think it's a unique thing at all. But I think that that sort of year where I wasn't in school and I didn't have anything to do. I mean, literally, the highlight of my day was my mate coming round at about 8 o'clock, and we just walked round I'm going to film this. I'm going to film. Goldbridge goes back to where he lived, because you've got to understand what it was. And I could walk around and go, look, there's the park bench. There's some cows. I mean, it was literally, you'd have to, I've got to, in fact, that's a task. We've got to do that vlog for you to understand it. But, there wasn't a lot going on. And, I mean, look, some people have to worry about gangs and knife crime and drugs. I had to worry about barbed wire, stingy nettles, and streetlights between certain villages. They didn't have any, so you're walking in the dark and you could end up in a ditch. I go to London and I get pissed off if I miss the tube and I've got to wait 2 minutes, and I'm like, 2 minutes? You miss the bus in Cropple Bishop and you're waiting for an hour. And you become, I think this is something I've carried into later life, you become very good. When you live in a place like that, you can become very good at dealing with boredom, because life is boring. And how does this feed into what I was talking about before? Well, the options were slim. You go down your local pub, and you go down your local pub in certain areas, and there's probably 20, 30 options, and maybe 2 or 3 options coming in every night because it's a busy place. You go to that local pub I went into, and everybody knows everybody, and everybody's probably been with everybody, and most people are probably about 30, 40, 50. No, so the options aren't great, but it did sort of I mean, I'm not joking. Literally, if you missed your bus, you were waiting for an hour. You may as well walk home and do your ironing before the next one, and then you miss it again. But I've always been quite good at making up things to do, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether it's a creative mind thing or not. But I've always been good at quite making things up to do. I've repeated myself there. You see, I've already wasted 20 seconds by doing that. And if you said I'm good at making up things to do 10 times, you've probably killed a minute. But one thing I did used to do, I was thinking about this the other week as well. Keep ups. I've always been quite good at keep ups. So I would go down the local park with a pen and paper, and I've actually been doing it a bit lately because it's quite good exercise. I'd go down the local park with a pen and paper and a football and play cricket. And people, how do you do that with a pen and paper? So basically, you'd go and stand somewhere with your ball, and you do keep ups, and however many keep ups you could do, you'd write down number 1. You do this 10 times, that's your first innings. So if you did, and the thing is, it always worked quite well for cricket because 50 is a steady score for an opener. Oh, he's got 100, that's a good start. 200, oh my God, that's great. And basically, you do 10 people, and I did even have it England versus Australia. So England first 10, how many you can do. Then I'd have a bit of a break, and then I'd do the Australia first 10, and the total would be their first innings score. You do that, and then the bus is here. You get on the bus. I'm joking. That would be a separate time filler. And I've got loads of games to fill times in your head. You give me a few objects, and I'll think of a game to do. I've done it. I've done it at work loads. So yes, that's I need to do that vlog. I do need to do that vlog. Definitely. A lot of things I do get asked about as well is policing. Like, have you got any funny stories about when you're in the police? Well, look, I'll tell you some funny stories, but I'll tell you some serious stories as well. It's a very, very serious job, and they do a very good job. And actually, today we've had this incident in Birmingham, which I don't know really much about, to be honest. Apart from, like, it's quite a big area where they've cordoned off, and they've had all these stabbings. And I was actually thinking today, you know what? I'm sort of glad I don't do that job anymore, because it's like, you know, if you are doing that job, you ain't going home to see your family anytime soon. I mean, God, you know, the reason you're not going home to see the family is because there's victims, there's somebody who's died there. But, you know, it's a tough job, and they'll be working their arse off trying to figure out what's happened there. So look, I'm not joking about the job there, and there's a lot of things that I wouldn't talk about as well. I mean, and there's stuff that happened, there's stuff that I'm proud of worked on that I can never talk of because it's like, it's confidential. But to be a bit light-hearted, I do remember like being a wet round the ears probationer, they call you. So basically, you go in for 3 weeks to the local. Like I was going to work at Birmingham, so there was a police training college down sort of near the cricket ground, and you go there for a couple of weeks, and then you go away to police training college for 12 weeks, and then you come back for 3 more weeks, and then you're sent to your area where you're going to work. So I got sent to the area I was going to work, and I must have been about 3 weeks properly out there policing. But you're basically learning, because you can have all the training you want. It's not till you get out there. One of the things you do have to learn is, and I've probably forgotten them now, is the caution when you arrest somebody. Obviously, you don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you don't mention when questioned something which will later rely in court. But also you learn all the definitions of theft and robbery, and it must be a trespass, bollocks anyway. But it's not until you actually start doing those sort of things for real that it goes in. But anyway, I used to work nights, of course, and one night in particular, I could drive, but I hadn't had my police driving course yet. So, and I hated this in later years. Fucking nights as the passenger. I when I became more experienced, which was basically 3 months in, I became better than most everybody else. I was like, well, I've always been arrogant. I would always say to whoever it was, I don't care how many years you've got in, I'm driving. I'm not being the passenger. I hated being the passenger. But obviously those first few weeks I had to be. So we're driving around, and I used to work around sort of Digbeth area, which, if anyone knows, in Birmingham, it's city centre. But Birmingham city centre was a really small area to work, but it was probably the busiest, and it was broken into 4 areas. There was there was Broad Street, which people may know used to be like the big place where everyone went drinking. The shop area, There was also like the gay quarter, and they call it the Chinese quarter, and Hurst Street area, which is where the stabbing was actually. And then there was Digbeth, which was big, but it was very industrial. So I worked Digbeth, and you would go to all the other jobs, but when there wasn't jobs going, you had to patrol your area. So we'd be driving around Digbeth, and it was very, very quiet because it was all industrial, apart from, you know, factories that were working through the night, of which there was quite a few. There was an abattoir, and there was other places. Lovely, lovely smells. Anyway, we're being driven around, and you know, I got used to being driven around and going through all these back streets and around the back of these yards and everything because, you know, there might be burglars. Anyway, we drive by these yards, and it's a female who, to be honest, was a lesbian, and that's not a prediction. She openly was, and so I didn't have any concerns that we were going round there to, you know, I mean, again, I'm an 8 out of 10, but I didn't think we were going round there for any fumble or anything like that. And we pulled up. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and she said, "I'm just going to have a rest," and she lowered the seat back and just, you know, it was quite cold, you know, like that, and closed her eyes, and I actually nearly did it then. See, emotional blanket, and literally, to mind's eye, went to sleep, and I was like, oh, right, and I didn't really know what to say, because I was like, well, I think I was meant to go to sleep, but I was like, it's not right. And what if it's a trick? Because one thing that was going on around then, there was a lot of internal investigations going on, and it could have been a little trap to catch me. So basically, I ended up spending the next, and I don't know how long it was, it could have been 10 minutes, it could have been half an hour, and it could have been a trap, I don't know. But I basically watched somebody sleeping for a period of time, really not knowing what to do. I didn't want to make any noise on my phone in case I woke them up, because that wouldn't help me. But then I didn't really know, like, so I basically sat there in this really dark, in a car, in this really dark, secluded area, with somebody next to me asleep, going, what am I doing? That was just a weird thing, and that did happen. Thankfully, a job came in, and I think after a certain period of time, I had to, we moved on. But yeah, that was weird. Anyway, let's take some. Well, I do want to talk about this one. I always get asked this by Nathaniel. Favourite sport outside of football? There isn't one. There really isn't one. Best party night out you've been on, says Thomas Bradbury. I think one of the best nights I ever had out was in Tenerife. I didn't even like this holiday. I've probably said it before. The first night I was there, we went for 2 weeks. I'm never a big fan of 2 weeks. I'm not a fan of 2 weeks holidays. I'd rather just go and have a really good week, come back and have another good week. 2 weeks for me, it's too indulgent. It's a mind thing for me. I can't really do things for 2 weeks. I can't relax for 2 weeks. I can't switch off for 2 weeks. It's just not me. And I think it ends up depressing me. But people are saying, what an idiot. But we went on this holiday as a group. And I think I was in a relationship. Well, I was. I don't know what I'm saying. I think I was. And thankfully not with my wife, so she doesn't need to worry. And there was a few others. And we had this. I didn't really like the holiday at all. People were getting food, illness, sickness, whatever they call it. People were going out and getting hammered every night and falling out. But we had this one night where it was really good, and I think it was a night that wasn't planned, and we just went out and went with it. And there's a Lineker's in Tenerife, or there's an Irish bar, and I lived in Ireland at the time, so we had a really good night. And I just remember we were sat outside about, you're on holiday, 10 o'clock? No, 4 o'clock in the morning, maybe, something stupid like that. We'd all been drinking. I think it was the period of Red Bull and vodka, and or vodka and lime or whatever. And we're absolutely, when you're absolutely steaming, but you're not going to throw up. Tends to be when you don't do beer. For me, and we're all really drunk, and we're all sat outside in this busy bar around this table, probably about 8 of us, and I think everybody was probably in a couple. I think everyone was in a couple, because I think the people who weren't had probably gone off to a club to try and be in a couple, even for a short holiday romance. And we're all sat around this table, absolutely hammered. Really good night. You can hear, U2's playing or something like that. It was probably the Irish bar, and it would have been me. I think I said something like, you know what, let's play a game. We're having a great night, let's play in a game. Right, honestly, everyone's got to be honest here, and nobody can hold any grudges. But, we're on holiday, It's not like we're in Ireland or anything like that. Nothing can come back against us. Does everyone agree? And everyone's like, yeah, this sounds good. So I goes, right, okay then. I'm going to spin this bottle. It's going to be a little bit like spin the bottle. I'm going to spin the bottle, but wherever it lands, we start with that person. Okay, so everyone's like, yeah. So you spin the bottle, lands on this, my mate on the left, thankfully. And I said, right, the game is, because I'd heard it before. I remember being told this story before, and the way it played out, I can't believe it, because the story I got told was exactly the same thing, and it basically ended the same way. So I said, right, okay, this is what you do. We're all couples here. You've got to say the one thing you'd like to do. The one thing you'd like to do. And without any hesitation, this guy goes, oh, definitely for me, I'm going to be totally honest, I'd love a threesome. Me, the missus, and actually any of you beauties around here, I just love it. In no time at all, her drink was all over him, and she was attacking him like she was going to kill him. And the mood just changed in no time. I was like, a couple of people were laughing. I was laughing inside, trying to break it up because I was close to it, and we calmed it all down. And you know when you could, I was just like, oh my god. I think he was shocked. He sobered up in seconds. She was like fuming for ages. Anyway, they took her to the toilet. They calmed her down, hosed her down, and they didn't do that. And they came back and they sat down, and you could cut them. You know, everyone had sort of ruined the night in many ways. You could cut the mood with a knife, and I was just like, I picked the bottle up and I put it down. I was like, that wasn't how it was meant to go. I meant like play at Old Trafford or win the lottery. And then a few people laughed and it helped. I think they ended up breaking up, but that was a really good night, and that always stands out as a moment. Anyway, best party night out you've been on? Yes, there was that question about dealing with quiet people, and it's a little bit boring in many ways, but I suppose I think it's something we all come up against, isn't it? I've been on plenty of courses, whether it was when I used to work in banking, policing, insurance. Fortunately, I don't have to do it anymore. But yeah, or anything. You go into a new class at school, or college, or university, or you take up pottery or whatever. You get initially, unless you go with a friend, and those people piss me off. Oh, I'm going to go and do something new, but I'm going to take my friend. So that you two walk in knowing each other, and everyone else doesn't know each other. I'll tell you what, that is cowardice. If you want to do something, don't drag your friend along. Go and do it, because a lot of people will just go and do it and not know each other. But my tactic with that is, and it happens quite a lot, so I think it's a good point. What do you do with quiet people? You don't mock them. You don't kick them out. Basically, what I used to do is I would just walk into a situation like that and just start talking to somebody. And at the end of the day, if they don't give you much back, you can move and talk to somebody else. I just think that would be my advice, because staying quiet is a defense mechanism, and it makes you feel awkward. It makes you feel awkward staying quiet in a room that's quiet. So actually, what people want is people want to be led. People want to be part of something. So if you start talking to somebody, and then you talk to the person on your left and your right, where have you come from today? What did you have for breakfast? Probably a little bit personal. What's your favourite band? What's your team? Do you like football? To me, if I ask somebody to like football and they say no, I get up and change seat anyway. But that's my approach with it, because I think life's too short. It's a cliche, but it's true. But if somebody, I just think actually talk to somebody. If they don't want to talk to you, I don't really want to be with that sort of person anyway, because they're bloody rude. So, but most of the time, I think if you start talking to somebody, they're just feeling quiet and nervous themselves, so they'll probably talk back. Make sure they're not deaf, because that may be a reason that they ignore you, and you may have to, get their eye contact. But I think that's fair enough, isn't it? Talk and try and open it up. What are your top 5 books of all time? Says Leroy, the hip hop. I'd have to think about that. I mean, one of my favourite books I've read is Wuthering Heights. The Beach was very good. Tony Adams. No, I'm only joking. I think books are like times of your life. And The Beach, I remember reading The Beach. The film was coming out with DiCaprio, and it looked like it was going to be really good, but lots of people said you've got to read the book. I read the book and it was just, really, I really enjoyed that. I don't know whether somebody, I probably read that when I was about 17, 18. I don't know whether a 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old reads The Beach now, Alex Garland, and gets the same thing from me, because maybe it was of its time. I enjoyed that. Wuthering Heights is of its time. It was set in the 1800s. I really liked that. I tell you what, I have to be careful when I'm reading, because I almost psychologically, I think I would have been a good actor. I still could be. I think I'm almost a method actor reader. I read a book and I become the book. So when I was reading The Beach, I was like, "Oh, I really feel like I'm on a deserted island in a community." When I'm reading Wuthering Heights, I feel a little bit like a shit, like Heathcliff. And American Psycho, I mean, if you've seen the film, the book's on another level. But I remember reading American Psycho, and I remember writing a short story myself. And I don't think that short story exists anymore. But I know it was... I know. I remember bits of the book. Like, I'm not even going to repeat it. The short story I wrote. And it was odd, to say the least. But I think that book took me into a place where, I think we've all... people go, "Oh, I'm not like that." Well, if you read the book, you've got to absorb the book and what's going on in the book. So American Psycho was interesting, but again, I don't know whether I'd want to read that now anymore. So I do like reading, mainly GQ now, but I do like reading. Weird and unique food taste you have, says Lou. Oh, your palate changes as you get older. I think I'm becoming more boring with mine. When was the first moment you realised United Stand had become a great success, says Dill. I don't know. I don't even know that I feel that now. I'm just not that. I'm not that. I'm not that. I don't think like that. No, I don't. 6 months of lockdown or 3 months of camping, says Luke. I tell you what, we've spoken about lockdown on this channel, on this very channel. So I just want to say this. I was talking about it today, actually. I am fearful of lockdown coming back. I mean, we did the videos on lockdown on here, and I fear it because it's so restrictive. You've got no football, no pubs, no restaurants, no school, no going to work. You're living in a bubble within your own house. And look, I'm no expert, but my opinion is there can be no lockdown again. I know it's going up in France, and I know it's going up in Spain, and it's going to go up in this country. It's autumn, it's the flu season, etc. And that's very serious. And I don't agree with these people who say, "I've got no evidence of this," these celebrity idiots saying it doesn't exist. I'll tell you what, it does bloody exist. I know people who've died of it. So, how does that help those people who died of it that you don't agree that it even existed? It does exist. But I think what needs to happen is, I've been to pubs, I've been to shopping centres, I've been on trains. The social distancing tactics they have in place are good. And we cannot go back to, queuing up for toilet rolls that no one's got. We've got to keep society running, and we have to, for people's mental health, but also as well, I think, controversial or not, we've hit this tipping point now where if we went back into lockdown again, there's already people who can't get operations, who can't get cancer screening, who have ignored going to doctors for other issues. At what point does the balance of, yes, you might get COVID-19 and get very ill and some people might die, balance up against there's loads of people who are going to die of cancer and every other illness because they're not getting the care that they need. And I think we've hit that tipping point. And I think COVID's down here, and I think everything else is up here. And I think the world that we need to live in, if there is going to be a big increase, is not a lockdown world. I think it's a world whereby people make their own choice and have their own responsibility. You've got to, lots of people are walking around with masks now. And I think that's the way to be. I think, if you do go to a pub, you leave your name, you go to a table that's social distanced. If you're going to go to school, they've got things in place as well. Football as well can be done behind closed doors, as can other sports that are important for people's mental health and for business. I think I don't want, I've got family members and friends who are in the high risk category through age and illness. They know what to do. They can be the ones that go into isolation, and they can do that because they know why they're doing it. But I think for the vast majority of us, yes, we might get it. Yes, some of us unfortunately might get ill, and a very few of us might actually end up dying from it. But there's lots of things like that. And I know it might sound a bit harsh and controversial, but I think that when you weigh it up, we've tried lockdown. we can't keep doing lockdown. I think we've got to try and live in this new world of lots of people working from home, and a social distance world, because we've got, you know, I read something today about older people are almost at the point with this whole thing that if it goes back into lockdown, they're almost put at the point where they're thinking, what's the point in living anymore, because their life is so restricted to what they're used to. So yeah, it is interesting. Rate all the women you've slept with, says Elliot Horton. Yeah, that's just not going to happen. And what's your worst experience with a girl in your teens, sister? I think we've probably covered that. Scariest situation you've been in. I think I've sort of done that one. Most awkward encounter with a partner's parents. I have done that one. And sometimes when I try to sleep, I think about it and I get really afraid and can't sleep. What do you think happens after you die, says Joshua? Oh, I don't think it even matters. I think I think it's about what you do while you're here, and do you want a legacy of while you're here? And when I say a legacy, you know, your legacy won't matter in 100 years. Hardly anyone will remember you anyway. It's the people that you come into contact in your life, whether it's 2 people, 10 people, whatever. The legacy you want to live and to give, because ultimately, when you die, it might be like a light switch. You won't know anything about it. I don't know why people fear it, because we all fear it, but you won't know about it. And our existence is a blink of an eye in the pace of the world. Like, you know, 100 years is not a long period of time in this Earth's existence. So you can get lost in all that. I just think be good, enjoy it, and make the most of it. Because I've known people taken way before their time, and I've known arseholes live for a long time. So there is no rules in relation to that. And I think what happens after you die, I don't know. We've all got our beliefs. We've all got our thoughts. And I'm certainly not going to be somebody who tells you you're wrong, because I just don't know. But I would hope that a lot of people try not to be scared of it, because ultimately I think I feel sorry for the people left behind. I've seen it, you know. Hopefully when you die, it's over, isn't it? You know, you're at peace. You've done your bit. There's no more suffering. Or your time is up. Yeah. If you spend your life scared, you're not going to live. What's your most awkward moment in public? And United Henry says, I remember he said he caught his leg behind on the... that makes me pass out now. That story makes me pass out now. I got on a train, I slipped, and I smashed my shin. I've probably told it twice. And I tried to walk it off, and then I looked down and I saw there was a hole in my jeans, and I just thought, that's not good. That's not... If I've got a hole in my jeans, imagine what's happened to my leg. Well, I did. I passed out. It was full of blood. I couldn't see the damage. Went to the hospital. I knew I was in trouble. Got to the hospital. I was sat up. They cleaned it, and they said, you might want to sit back because you might see a bit of the bone. I went, don't worry. I've been in the police for 10 years. I'm used to blood. They cleaned it out. I saw the bone and I passed out. So there you go. There's Billy Big Bollocks for you. Bottled it. He's bloody bottled it. What a prat. Everyone wants to know your daily routine from morning to evening, says King Kai. King Key. Anyway, look, I could go on all night. I've gone on too long again. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please smash a like on it. Subscribe if you are new. We've got Cooking with Goldbridge back this week, and I will do another Going for Goldbridge at some point, because I am enjoying them, and for me it's always about finding the time to do it. So thanks everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed it. Subscribe, bottom right hand corner, and I'll speak to you all soon.